Today's episode of the More You Know podcast is brought to you by CrowdQuestion, a brand new social communication platform focused on connecting crowds to bring everyone closer to their community, as well as enhancing any occasion. Rather than being a social media platform focused on content and advertising, they're focused on communication and connection. Learn more about the platform and download the app free at crowdquestion.com.
I'm just trying to make it all make sense.
Today's
More
You
No
podcast.
Today I want to share the story of the life of Malcolm Little. Malcolm Little was born May 19, 1925, in Omaha, Nebraska. He was the fourth of 7 children, born to a Grenadian mother and a Georgian father. His father, Earl, was a local leader of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, or the UNIA, and his mother, Louise, served as secretary and branch reporter, and they focused on instilling self-reliance and black pride within their children. Aside from Malcolm's parents, 4 of his father's brothers were killed due to racial violence when he was young. Within Malcolm's first few years, due to KKK threats, his family was forced to relocate multiple times, first to Milwaukee, Wisconsin in 1926, and then shortly thereafter to Lansing, Michigan. Throughout these years, the family was frequently harassed by the Black Legion, a racist group similar to the KKK, who were accused of burning the Littles' home in 1929. Later on, when Malcolm was 6, his father died in what was officially ruled as a streetcar accident. His mother, Louise, had always believed that he was murdered by the Black Legion, though, and the reality of these rumors highly disturbed Malcolm. By 1938, Malcolm's family was entirely living in poverty, and along with that his mom had a nervous breakdown, which ended up with her being admitted to Kalamazoo State Hospital. From there, Malcolm and his siblings were separated and sent to foster homes, and luckily after a couple years they were all reunited after her release. From there, Malcolm attended multiple high schools in Michigan, eventually dropping out before graduating in 1941. He had dropped out even though he excelled in school and dreamed of becoming a lawyer, and this was due to one of his high school teachers telling him that his aspiration at the time was no realistic goal for a nigger. From here, he is left feeling devastated and hopeless, dropping out of high school. Shortly after dropping out, he moved to Harlem, and in Harlem he began getting into trouble, engaging in drug dealing, gambling, racketeering, robbery, and pimping. During this time in Harlem, he was also summoned by the local draft board for military service in World War II, but he got out of it by rambling and acting like he had mental disturbances, ultimately being declared mentally disqualified for military service. From there he moved to Boston and began committing burglaries, targeting rich white families, which he then eventually got arrested for, and was sentenced to 8 to 10 years in Charlestown State Prison for larceny and breaking and entering. While he was in prison, he met a fellow convict named John Bembry, who was a self-educated man, who Malcolm described as the first man he ever had total respect for. Under his influence, Malcolm became obsessed with reading. At that point he found Islam, and was introduced to the Nation of Islam. He then changed his entire behavior, and also changed his name to Malcolm X, and from here began the journey of becoming who we know as Malcolm X. Malcolm X's origin story is really compelling. He literally came from nothing. His family was exposed to racism, their house was burned down, and they were victims to the Black Legion and KKK. His father was killed at an early age, his mother became mentally ill because of that, and his family was then split up and he was forced into foster care. From there he became troubled, and lived a troubled life for about a decade, which ended with him in prison. But from there he's inspired to educate himself, and from there became Malcolm X, transforming his own life and the lives of millions. No matter who you are or what your circumstances are, you can work to craft a life of significance. I hope this talk makes a positive impact in your life. Please subscribe to the podcast wherever you are listening or watching it. Check out other episodes. Leave a review. Follow the podcast on social media at More You Know Pod, and sign up for CrowdQuestion to ask me questions about the episode. Again, thank you for listening as we propel through podcasting with the More You Know.
I'm just trying to make it all make sense.
Today's
More
You
No
podcast.